What? No, not yet. No sweat.
La Yashala.
Oh, you not no sweat. Cause you just take over. Right? Don't worry about it. We'll get all of this straight over there.
With that, I say Amijah, which means to stand. Wapanya Hakodam, which means turn and face the east. We're going to say the Lord's Prayer first in Hebrew. Repeat after me. Abanaw. Shabbat Shemayim. Kodash. I.S.U.P.K. Yahweh. Malakavka. Daba'ah. Ratzayka. I.S.U.P.K. Baratza. Kawak. I.S.U.P.K. Bashemayim. Adamanaw. Lakam. Yawam. Wasalakinaw. Kabawatinaw. Kasalakinaw. Kabawatinaw. Wala'ah. Yabi'ayinaw. One. Above. Kawashayinaw. Mayan. Bride. Lakab. Kamalakwa. Wa'ala. Watapar. Wa'ala Yemen. Aman. And in English, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever. So be it. We're going to say a cut the power. Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, Bakashah, Adamanaw, Akak, La'Ba'ah, Kamakalah, Lukamarawa, Akak, Latahah, Hamatazarayim, Akak, Lahapian, Lamathi, Akak, Arakawa, Latama'ala, Lagarshan, Bashem, Yahushua, Wadaman. And in English, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, please give us the power, the power to heal. All manner of sickness, and all manner of disease, the power to cleanse the lepers, the power to raise the dead, the power against unclean spirits, cast them out, in the name of Yahushua. Thank you. So be it. We're going to say, bless Israel. Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, Barakalanaw, YAHANNA, Rabayah, Sapariyam, Rapah, Magun, Bashem Yahushua, Kawadaman. And in English, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, bless us and Israel, and the school. Bless, heal, shield, protect our loved ones. In the name of Yahushua. Thank you. So be it. We're going to say Psalms 121. Asha'ah. Ayanya. Ahaharim. Ma'ayan. Yaba'ah. Izari. Ma'ayin. Yahweh. I.S.U.P.K. Shemayim. Wa'aratza. Ayathan. Lamawat. Regalka. Ayanawam. Shamarka. Hana. La'ah. Yanawam. Wala'ah. Yashun. Shalomah. Yasha'al. Yahweh. Shamarka. Yahweh. Tizaka. Aliyah. Yemika. Yawamam. Hashemash. La'ah. Yakanka. Wayarak. Balayallah. Yahweh. Yashamarka. Akara. Yashama. Atapashka. Yahweh. Yashama. Taza'atka. Wabu'atka. Ma'aika. Wa'id awalam. Wa'adaman. And in English, I will lift mine eyes to the hills. From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from Yahweh. Which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day. Nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee.
Yahweh shall preserve thee
from all evil.
from all evil.
He shall preserve thy soul.
He shall preserve thy soul.
Yahweh shall preserve thy going out.
Yahweh shall preserve thy going out
and thy coming in.
and thy coming in.
From this time forth.
From this time forth.
And even forevermore.
And even forevermore.
So be it.
So be it. We'll be there.
Psalms 83.
Psalms 83. Alahaya, Al Damailaka, Al Takarash, Al Tashakwat, Al Kayahana, Al Yabika, Yahama Yawan, Amashanayaka, Nasha Awu, Ra'ash, Al Imaka, Ya'ara Yamwa, Sawab, Wayataya Aitazawa, Al Tazapu Wanyaka, Amaru, Lakawa, Wanakakidan, Magalia, Wala'a, Yazakar, Sham Yasha'al, Iwad, Kaya, Never Aitazawa, Arawan, Wayashama'alim, Mawa Abu, Wahagaria. I missed the line, so like it. Now what items of what? Love. Yakadwa. Al-Yaka. Arya. Yakarathwa. Al-Ahaliya. Adawam. Wayashama Alim. Mawa Abu. Wahagaria. Gabol. Wa'aimawan. Wa'aimalak. Palashaf. I'm Yashabi. Tazawu. Gam Ashawu. Nalawa. Aimam. Hayawa. Zarawad. Labanya Lawat, Salah, Aishalahum, Kamadin, Kasaya Sara'ah, Kayabian, Banakal, Kwayashwan, Nashamadwa, Ba'ayanda Aru, Hayawa, Daman, La Arama, Shayathamwa, Nadiyamu, Ka'ara, Wakaza Abu, Wakaza Bak, Wakata Zamana, Kauna Saya Kumwa, Ashar, Amaru, Nara'ash, Lanawa, Na'awa, Alahaya, Shayathamwa, Kagagula, Kakwash, Lapanya Raka, Ka'ash, Laba'ayra, Wakahalaba, Talahat, Haryam, Khan, Tharadapma, Basa Irika, Wabasa Wapathka, Tabahalam, Mala'a, Panyahum, Kualawan, Waya Bakwashwa, Shamka, Yahawa, Yabashwa, Waya Ba'awa, Ajai, Waya Kaparu, Waya Abadwa, Waya Da'awa, Kaya, Atha, Shamka, Yahawa, Labadka, Al Yawan, Al Kal Rataza, the water of month.
In English, keep not thy silence.
Keep not thy silence.
O Yahweh. Hold not thy peace.
Hold not thy peace.
And be not still.
O Yahweh. For lo,
thy enemies make a tumult.
thine enemies make a tumult.
And they that hate thee.
Have
lifted up the head.
They
have taken crafty counsel.
They have taken crafty counsel
against thy people.
And
consulted against
thy hidden ones. They have said, Come.
And let us cut them off.
And let us cut them off.
From being a nation. That the name of Israel. May be no more in remembrance. They have consulted together. With one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom. And the Ishmaelites. Of Moab. The Hagarenes. The Baal and Amalek. The Philistines. With the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher is also joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. Salah. Do unto them. As unto the Midianites. As to Sisera. As to Jabin. At the brook of Kishon. Which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Ored. And like Zeed. Yea. All their princes. As Sabbath. And as Zamuna. Who said, Let us take to ourselves. The houses of Yahweh in possession. O my power. Make them like a wheel. As a stubble before the wind. As the fire burneth the wood. And as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them. With thy tempest. And make them afraid. With thy storm. Fill their faces with shame. That they may seek thy name. O Yahweh. Let them be confounded. And trouble forever. Yea. Let them be put to shame. And perish. That men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh,
High, Most High,
over all the earth.
So be it. Saw, which means to turn.
YAHANNA, which means be seated. All right, up here, YAHANNA, which means be seated. Good work, Mark. Good work. We're gonna pick up where we left off last week. We are at, what's this? It's 2 Kings 15, 21 through 27. So we at 2 Kings chapter 51. Chapter 15, verse 21. You understand? We're gonna read it in the Hebrew first, and then we'll read it in the English. You got it, Rob.
2 Kings chapter 15.
In the Hebrew, Wayathar, Debari, Manakam, Wakal, Ashar, Aishah, Alawa, Hama, Paka, Kaya, Banawa, Dakata Yawa, verse 23, Bashanah, Kamashayam, Shanaha, verse 22, Wayashakab, Manakam, Ayin, Abba Yawa, Wayamalak, Pa Kakaya, Banawa. So I get Thaka the Yawa, verse 23. Bashanah, Kamashayam, Shanaha, La'ai, Zaria, Malak, Yahawada, Malak, Pa Kakaya, Ban, Manakam, Al, Yashara Allah, Bashamarwan, Shanatayam, verse 24. Waya Aish, Harai, Ba'ayanaya, Yahweh, La'ah, Tara, Salaki, Sarah, Salaki, Makata, Awa, Awa, Yarabayim, Bun, Nabat, Ashar, Hakataya, Yashara Allah, verse 25. Waya Kashar, Aliyawa, Pakak, Bun, Ramala Yahweh, Shalaya Shawa, Waya Kahawa, Bashamara Wan, Ba'ara Mawan, Baya, Malak, Aragab, Wa'af, Ha'araya, Wa'ai Mawa, Kamashayam, Ayash, Mabanaya, Gala Yam, Wayama Yata Hawa, Wayamalak, Thakat the Yawa, verse 26, Wayathar, Dabaria, Pa Kakaya, Wakal, Ashar, Aishah, Hanam, Hatha, Wabayim, Al, Sapar, Dabaria, Hayamyam, Lamalakaya, Yashar Allah, verse 27, Bashanah, Kamashayam, Washatayim, Shanaha, La'ai, Zaria, Malak, Yahawada, Malak, Pakak, Bun, Ramala Yahweh, Al, Yashar Allah, Bashamarwan, Aishar Yam, Shana.
That's it. Most High Christ. Good word. All right, now we're going to read it in the English. We are at first, like 2 Kings chapter 15, verse 21.
In the English. And the rest of the acts of Menahem and all that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles, the king of Israel? Verse 22. And Menahem slept with his fathers, and Pakanah, his son, reigned in his stead. Verse 23. In the 15th year of Zariah, king of Judah, in the 50th year of Azariah, the king of Judah, Pekahiah, the son of Menahem, began to reign over Israel and Samaria, and reigned 2 years. Verse 24. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. Verse 25. But Pekah, the son of Remaliah, a captain of his, conspired against him and smote him in Samaria, in the palace of the king's house, with Arga and Aray, and with him 50 men of Gileadites, and he killed him and reigned in his room. Verse 26. And the rest of the acts of Pakanah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of Chronicles of the king of Israel. Of the kings of Israel. Verse 27. In the 52nd year of Zariah, king of Judah, Pekah, the son of Remaliah, began to reign over Israel and Samaria, and reigned 20 years. Verse 28.
That's it. No sign press. Up here, Elijah, which means to stand. Trooper Shabbat, present yourself. Slide. Right, sit down in the chair for it, bro.
Oh, I got it.
Go on.
Shabbat Dayak, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yashala,
Shabbat Dayak, Ban Yahawada, Ban Yashala.
Yahabashim Yahshab Rakatham.
Yahabashim Yahshab Rakatham. Up here, Yeshabim, which means be seated. Shalom, everybody. Shalom, brother. You have a shalom, shalom, sis. You have a shalom, shalom. All right, so we're going to pick up where we left off. We're at 2 Kings, chapter 15, verse 28. If you could, before I started off for me.
Verse 28. Wayaish, Hara'ai, Ba'ai, Yanaya, Yahweh, La'ah, Sar, Manah, Ka Ta'awath, Yaraba'aim, Ban, Nabat, Ashar, Ha-Kataya, Yasha'ala. Verse 29. Bayamya, Pakak, Malak, Yasha'ala, Ba'a, Tha, Katha, La'asar, Malak, Ashawar, Waya Kukak, Ath, Ayawan, Wa'ath, Abal, Bayath, Ma'aika, Wa'ath, Ya Nawak, Wa'ath, Kadash, Wa'ath, Ka Tazawar, Wa'ath, Ha Gala'ai, Wa'ath, Ha Gala'yala, Cow, Aratza, Napath, Thayal, Napathat, it's like it? Napathalia, Waya Galama, Asharwa,
The water, of course. Verse 30. Waya Kushar, Hawashai, Bun, Allah, Pakwak, Bun, Ra, Ramal Yahweh, Waya Kahawa, Wayam Yathawa, Wayam Yathahawa, Waya Malak, Thakathyawa, Bashanath, Aishariam, Laya Watham, Bun, Isaiah, verse 31, Wayathar, Debaria, Pakwak, Wakar, Ashar, Aisha, Hanam, Kathawabam, Kathawabayam, Al, Sapar, Debaria, Hayamyam, La Malakia, Yasha'ala, verse 32, Bashanath, Shathayam, La Pakwak, Ban, Rab Malayahawa, Malak, Yasha'ala, Malak, Yawatham, Ban, Isaiah, Malak, Yahawada, verse 33. Bun, Aisharium, Wakwamash, Shana, Haya, Bamalakwa, Washasha, Aishara, Shana, Malak, Bayara, Washalam, Washam, Amwa, Yara Washa'a, Bath, Taza Dawak, verse 34. Waya Aish, Hayashah, Ba'ayanya, Yahawah, Kakar, Ashar, Aisha, Isa Yahawah, Abu Yahweh, Aisha, verse 35. That's it. Son of Christ. Now we're going to read it in English. We are at 2 Kings chapter 15, verse 28.
2 Kings chapter 15, verse 28. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. Verse 29. In the days of I.S.U.P.K, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and took Ijon and Abel-Beth-Makkah and Genoa and Kadesh and Hazor and Gilead and Galilee and the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria. Verse 30. And Hosea, the son of Elah, made a conspiracy against Pekah, the son of Ramaliah, and smote him, and slew him, and reigned in his stead in the 20th year of Jotham, the son of Uzziah. Verse 31. And the rest of the acts of I.S.U.P.K and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Verse 32. In the second year of I.S.U.P.K, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, began Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, to reign. Verse 33. 25 years old was he when he began to reign. And he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. Verse 34. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. He did according to all that his father Azusa had done.
Right. So right here, we read about how the king of Assyria now is taking the northern kingdom into captivity. And this is how you have now the so-called, what we know today as the Native Americans and the Hispanics coming over to this land. Not yet, but this is the start of that. At one point, we were the northern kingdom and southern kingdom together, you understand, in this relatively the same land. And the king of Assyria came and took them to a different land. With that, I say, Madhu just need to stand up here. Brother, go ahead, present yourself. So you just come around right here, brother. So you'll just stand here, Madhu, and then Madhu Shabbat. Yep. And then you'll say your name. Curtis. And then you'll say Bon, what tribe are you? Benjamin. Bon Benjamin. Bon Salaki. Bon Yamyam. Bon Yasha'al. So what you're saying is you're saying your name. Bun means son of. So you're saying your name, son of your tribe, and then son of Israel. This is our custom in Leviticus, how anybody that came in here had to state their registry. You understand? If somebody wasn't a priest or an Israelite, they would be killed. You understand? That's what these staffs symbolize. Of course, we're not killing nobody in here, but that's what they symbolize. You understand? So we go ahead and say it again. So you say your name, Bun, your tribe, Bun Yamyam, Bun Yasha'al.
Ban Yamyam.
Bun Yamyam.
Ban Yamyam.
Bun Yasha'al.
Ban Yasha.
Curtis, Bun Yamyam, Bun Yasha'al. And then you'll come back to our mic. You salute. Like, take your fist like this. Yahawah by Hashem, Yahshua.
How Shimmy How Shah Rakatha.
Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Barakatha. Good work, bro. Good work.
No, you gonna come this
Oh, you stay right here. You stay right here. You gonna come up and read. You gotta step up right here. The Shabbat was be seated. So what's gonna happen is we're gonna read in the Hebrew first, and then we'll just have you read in the English. Well, the Shabbat. So like, right, you take this one, Shabbat. Normally I like it.
I understand, sir.
All right, so we're gonna pick up where we left off. We are at 2 Kings, chapter 15, verse 35. 35, the water question. Verse 35. Require. Habamawath, La'a, Sarawah, Iwad, Ha'ain, Mazabakium, Wamakwatarium, Baba Mawath, Hawa'a, Banah, Af, Sha'ira, Bayah, Yahweh, Ha'al Yawan, verse 36, Wayathar, Debaria, Yawatham, Ashar, Aisha, Hala'a, Hum, Kathawabayam, Al, Sapar, Debaria, Hayamyam, La Malakia, Yahawada, verse 37, Bayamyam, Haham, Hakal, Yahweh, Lahashalayak, Bayahawada, Ratazayan, Malak, Aram, Wa'af, Pakwak, Ban, Ramala Yahweh, verse 38, Waya Shakar, Yawatham, Ain, Abathayawa, Waya Kobar, Ain, Abathayawa, Ba'ayar, Dawada, Abayawa, Waya Malak, Akazar, it's like Akazar. No, it's like Akaz. Banawa, the Kathua, 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 1. Bashanath, Shabbat, Asherah, Shana, La Pakwak, Ban, Rab Mala Yahweh, Malak, Akaz, Ban, Yawatham, Malak, Yahawada, verse 2. Ban, Aishariam, Shana, Akaz, Bamalakwa, Washasha, Aishara, Shana, Malak, Bayaw, Rashalam, Wala'a, Aisha, Hayashar, Ba'ayanya, Yahweh, Al Yahweh, it's like a Alahayawa, Kadawada, Abayawa, verse 3. Wayalak, Badarak, Malakia, Yasha'ala, Wagam, Af, Banawa, Ha'aibayal, Ba'af, Katha Ibawath, Ha-Gawayam, Ashar, Hawarian, Hawariyashah, Yahweh, Atham, Mapanya, Bunya, Yasha'ala. That's it. All right, now we're going to read it in the English. We are at 2 Kings chapter 15, verse 35. If you could, brother, nice and loud.
Howbeit the high places were not removed, the people sacrificed and burned incense still in the high places. He built the high gates of the house of the Lord. Now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In those days the Lord began to send again against Judah Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Ramalah, verse 38, and Jotham slept with his fathers and was burnt with his fathers in the city of David, his father. And Azariah, his son, reigned in his stead. 16. chapter 16, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
In the 17th year of I.S.U.P.K, the son of Ramallah, Azah, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. Verse 2. 20 years old was Az when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord his God, like David his father. Verse 3. But he walked in the way of the king of Israel, yea, and made his son to pass through the fire, according to the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel.
So good work. So what we read about right here is what happened now is Judah now started to follow after the northern kingdom. The kings of Judah started to now follow after the wickedness that the kings of the northern tribes, the kings of Israel were. You understand? Now you're going to see how the Lord is going to bring other nations against us because of our disobedience. Up here, I imagine, which means to stand. Barak, present yourself.
Oh, go. Barak ban Yahweh ban Yasha'Allah.
Barak ban Yahweh ban Yasha'Allah.
Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shabrak Atham.
Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shabrak Atham. Read it too. Up here, Yeshabim, which means be seated. All right, so we're going to pick up where we left off. We are at 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 4.
Verse 4. Verse 4. YAHANNA, YAHANNA, Baba Mawat. Wa'al Hagabai Iwa with the Kaf Kair Itazar Ina. Verse 5. Azab Ya'ala Ratazayan Malak Aram Wapat Watapak Bun Ramah Laya Hawa Malak Yasha'Allah Yara Washalam Lama Lakar Mala, Lama Lakam Wayatazar Wa Ar Akazar Wala'a Yakawa Laha Lakam. Verse 6. Ba'ai Har Haha Ya'a Hashaya Ratazayan Malak Aram Ah Ayalath La Aram Wayan Wanashaw Ath Hawadayam Ma'ar Yalawath Wa'a Rayam Ba'awa Ayalath Wayashabwa Sham I Hayawam Hazab. Verse 7. Wayashalak Akazah Mala'akyum Ar Fegalath Galasar Salaki Polisar Malak Ashawar La'amar Ibadak Waban Wanabanak Ayan Anaya Allah Waha Washar Ayanya Makak Malak Aram Wamakak Malak Yasha'Allah Hakawamayim Alya. Verse 8. Wayakaka Akazah Ath Hakasa Wa'ath Hazaha Hanamataza by Yahweh Waba Atazar Wa Baya Hamalak Wayashalak Lamalak Ashawar Shaka. Verse 9. Wayashamar Al Yawa Malak Ashawur, Wayar, Malak, Ashawur, Ar, Damashak, Wayath, Pasha, Waya, Gala, Kayara, Wa'ath, Ratazayan, Hamayath, verse 10, Wayalak, Hamalak, Akazah, Lakarat, Fedalath, Pala Asar, Malak, Ashawur, Dawa Mashak, Waya Ra'ah, Hamazabak, Ashar, Bada Mashak, Waya Shalak, Hamalak, Akazah, a warrior, Hakahan, Damawath, Hamazabak, Wa'ah, Thaban, Yathwa, Lakar, Ma'ai, Shahawa. Verse 11.
That's a good word. Now we're going to read it in the English. We are at 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 4.
2 Kings chapter 16, verse 4. And he sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places, and on the hills, and under every green tree. Verse 5. Then Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came to Jerusalem to war. They besieged Ahaz, but could not overcome him. Verse 6. At that time, Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria, and drave the Jews from Elath. And the Syrians came to Elath and dwelt there unto this day. Verse 7. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I am thy servant and thy son. Come up and save me out of the hand of the king of Syria, and out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rise up against me. Verse 8. And Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord, and in the treasures of the king's house, and sent it for a present to the king of Assyria. Verse 9. And the king of Assyria hearkened unto him, for the king of Assyria went up against Damascus, and took it, and carried the people out of and carried the people of it captive to Kir, and slew Rezin. Verse 10. And King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and saw an altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Yerushah, the priest the fashion of the altar and the pattern of it, according to all the workmanship thereof.
So we read about right here is how the king of Israel, the northern kingdom, conspired against his own brother with the heathens. You understand? And now Ahaz, who's the king of Judah, the southern kingdom, is now taken into captivity because our own brother conspired against us. You see this right now. That spirit is in the Christian church. The Christian pastors and black leaders are selling out black people in conjunction with our oppressor. That's what you're seeing today. It's nothing new. This Bible is actual history. And this is why it's important to know this, because this has what we've always gone through and how we should get out of it. Up here, imagine, which means to stand. Oh, why to position yourself? So like, you came up yet? Okay. Or why to present yourself?
Arawadi, Bun Gad, Bun Yasha Allah.
Arawadi, Bun Gad, Bun Yasha Allah.
Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shaka Rocket Thumb.
Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shaka Rocket Thumb. That's no swell. Up here, Yeshabim, which means be seated. We're going to pick up where we left off, where we had the question.
We are at 2 Kings 16, 11 through 17.
We have 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 11. Wayabun, Awaraya, Hakahan, Hamazabak, Kakao, Ashar, Shalak, Hamalak, Akaz, Madamashak, Khan, Aisha, a warrior, Hakahan, Bawa'a, Hamalak, Akaz, Madamashak, verse 12, Wayaba'a, Hamalak, Madamashak, Wayara'a, Hamalak, Hamazabak, Wayakora, Hamalak, Hamazabak, Waya'ah, Al-Yawa, verse 13. Wayakotar, Al-Althawa, Wa'ath, Manakathwa, Wayasar, Nasakawa, Wayazarak, Dum, Ha-Shalamya, Ashar, Lawa, Hamazabak, verse 14. Wa'ath, Hamazabak, Hana Kashath, Asar, it's like Ashar, Lapanya, Yahweh, Wayakara, Ma'ath, Panya, Habaya, Mabayan, Hamazabak, Wamabayan, Bayath, Yahweh, Wayathan, Athwa, Al, Yarak, Hamazabak, Tazapawana, verse 15. Wayataza Wahawa, Hamalak, Akaz, Alvaraya, Hakahan, La'amar, Hamazabak, Hagadawal, Ha-Qatar, Alpha, sorry, Ilatha, Habakwa, Wa'af, Manakath, Ha'ara, Wa'af, Ilatha, Hamalak, Wa'af, Manakathwa, Wa'af, Ilatha, Kab, Ain, Ha'aratazar, Wama Lakatham, Wanasakai Yaham, Wakab, Dum, Ilah, Wakab, Dum, Zabak, Al-Yawa, Tazawarak, Wamazabak, Hanakashah, Yahaya, Leah, La Bakwa, verse 16, Waya Asha, Awaraya, Hakahan, Kakab, Ashar, Tazawa, Hamalak, Akaz, verse 17, Wayakwat Wayatazatazar, Hamalak, Akaz, Hamasagarwath, Hama Kanawath, Wayasal, Ma'alyaham, Wa'ath, Hakayar, Wa'ath, Hayam, Hawarad, Hawarada, Ma'al, Hadakwa, Habakwa, Hanashakath, Ashar, Thakathia, Wayathan, Athwa, Marata Zapath, Abanayam. Osai Christ, now we're going to read it in the English. We have 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 11, the water.
2 Kings chapter 16, verse 11, in the English. And Uriah, the priest, built an altar according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Uriah, the priest, made it against King Ahaz, came from Damascus. And when the king was come from Damascus, the king saw the altar, and the king approached to the altar and offered thereon. And he burnt his burnt offering and his meat offering, and poured his drink offering, and sprinkled the blood of his peace offerings upon the altar. And he brought also the brazen altar, which was before the Lord, from the forefront of the house, from between the altar and the house of the Lord, and put it on the north side of the altar. And King Ahaz commanded Uriah the priest, saying, upon the great altar, burn the morning burnt offering and the evening meat offering, and the king's burnt sacrifice and his meat offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their meat offering and their drink offerings, and sprinkle upon it all the blood of the burnt offering, and all the blood of the sacrifice, and the brazen altar shall be for me to inquire by. Thus did Uriah the priest according to all that King Ahaz commanded. Verse 17. And the king Ahaz cut off the borders of the bases and removed the laver from off them, and took down the seat from off the brazen oxen that were under it, and put upon a pavement of stones.
Most High Christ. Good work. Up here, Majid, which means to stand. The guard present yourself.
Kagar Mak, Ban Yahawah, Ban Yashala.
Kagar Mak, Ban Yahawah, Ban Yashala.
Yahweh Shem Yahushua Brakatha.
Yahweh Shem Yahushua Brakatha. Up here, you're shopping, which means be seated. If you could, otherwise you can pick up where the brother left off. Just with the plates up the shop. We're going to pick up where we left off. We are at 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 18. If you could, Kagar.
Verse 18.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the Hebrew, Wa'ah, Mayasak, Hashabah, Ashar, Banawa, Babayah, Wa'ah, Mabawa'ah, Hamalak, Hakayatazawana, Hasab, Bayah, Yahweh, Mapanaya, Malak, Aishawar, verse 19, Wayathar, Dabaria, Akas, Ashar, Aishah, Hala'ah, Hama, Katawabayim, Al, Sapar, Dabaria, Hayamyam, Lamalakaya, Yahawah, verse 20, Wayashakah, Akas, Ain, Abatayawa, Wayakabar, Ain, Abatawa, Ba'ayar, Dawada, Waya Malak, Kazaka Yahawah, Banawa, Thakatayawa, 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 1. Bashanah, Shatayam, Aisha Raha, La Akas, Malak, Yahawah, Malak, Hawashai, Ban, Alaha, Bashamar one, Al, Yashua Allah, the Shai, Shania, verse 2, Waya Aish, Hara'ai, Ba'ayanaya, Yahweh, Rakah, La'ah, Kamalakaya, Yashua Allah, Ashar, Azawa, Lapanayawa, verse 3, Al, I, Layawa, Aliwat, Alaha, Shalom, Asar, Malak, Ashawar, Wayahaya, Lawa, Hawashai, Ibad, Wayashah, Lawa, Manakah, verse 4, Waya Mataza, Malak, Ashawar, Bahawa Shai, Kashar, Ashar, Shalak, Mala Akaya, La'ah, Al, Sawa'ah, Malak, Matazarayam, Wala'ah, Ha'ailah, Manakah, Lamalak, Aishawar, Kashanah, Bashanaya, Waya Aitazara Rawa, Malak, Ashawar, Waya Sar Hawa, Baya, Kala'ah.
Now we're going to read it in the English. We have 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 18.
In the English. And the convert for the Sabbath that they had built in the house, and the king entered without, turned he from the house of the Lord for the king of Syria. Verse 19. Now the rest of acts of Ahaz, which he did, are they not written in the books of Chronicles of the king of Judah? And Ahaz slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Hezekiah, his son, reigned in his stead. Chapter 17, verse 1. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. Verse 2. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, but not as the king of Israel that were before him. Verse 3. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. Verse 4. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to the king of Egypt, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison.
So what you're reading about right now is now both kings of both Israel and Judah are conspiring with heathen nations. And we're going to see how the moment we join with the oppressor, with our enemies, you're going to see the downfall of our kingdoms. You understand? Like, this is the problem with our people today. Like, we are destroyed from joining hands with our oppressor. That's why we're destroyed.
Right.
And our people can't seem to understand that. Stop Asian hate is destroying the black community. You understand? And Martin Luther King's dream was destroying the black community. We have to separate from the people that hate us, because the Lord wants us to. That's the law. You understand? Right. And we're going to read about how the moment we conspired with these heathens is the reason why the Lord sent us into slavery. You understand? Up here, my dream, which means to stand. True should pop with yourself.
Shabbat Dayat, Ban Yahawah, Ban Yashalam.
Shabbat Dayat, Ban Yahawah, Ban Yashalam.
Yahawah Bashim Yahweh Barakathah.
Yahawah Bashim Yahweh Barakathah. Up here, Yeshabiim, which means be seated. We are at 2 Kings
17 and 5.
The what, sir? 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 5. We're going to read it in the Hebrew first. Go ahead, start off with us.
Khan. Verse 5. Waya'al, Malak, Ashawar, Bakal, Ha'arataza. Waya'al, Marwawan, Wayatazar, Al-Yaha, Shalash, Shaniah. Verse 6. Bashanath, Ha-Thashai Ya'ai Yatha, La Hawashai, Lakad, Malak, Shawar, Ath, Masharwan, Wayagal, Ath, Yasha'ala, Ashar, Wara, Wayashab, Watham, Bakalak, Wabak, Bawar, Nahara, Ga Wasak, Ga Razad, Wa'ai Raya, Madaya. Verse 7.
I got a question. Why? Yahaya, Kaya, Kata Awa, Banya, Yasha'ala, La Yahawa, Alahai Yaham, Hama'ila, Atham, Ma'arataza, Matazarayam, Mathakath, Yad, Para'ai, Malak, Matazarayam, Yara'awa, Alahayim, Akarayim, verse 8, Wayalakwa, Baka Kwawa, Hagawayam, Ashar, Harayasha, Yahawa, Mapania, Banya, Yasha'ala, Wamalakia, Yasha'ala, Ashar, Aishawa, verse 9, YAHANNA, Banya, Yasha'ala, Dabaria, Ashar, La'a, Khan, Yahweh, Alahayaham, Wayabanawa, Laham, Bamawaf, Bakar, Ira Yaham, Mama Gadar, Nawatazarian, Ayar, Mabatazar, verse 10, Wayatazabawa, Laham, Matazabawaf, Wa'ashariam, Al, Kar, Gabo I, Gabaha, Wathaka, Kar, Aitiza, Ra'ina, verse 11, Wayakotarwa, Sham, Bakar, Bamawaf, Kagawayam, Ashar, Hagala, Yahweh, Mapanyaham, Waya Ashawa, Dabaria, Ra'ayam, Laha Ka'ayisa, Yahweh, verse 12. That's it. Most High Christ. Now we're going to read it in the English. We read 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 5.
2 Kings chapter 17, verse 5. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. Verse 6. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah and in harbor by the river Gozan and in the cities of Medes.
Of the Medes.
Medes.
Of the Medes. Of the Medes. This Medes. That's the Persians. The Persians and the Medes.
Medes. Verse 7. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods. Verse 8. And walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel, and the kings of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made. Verse 9. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord their God, and they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. Verse 10. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree. Verse 11. And there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom the Lord carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord to anger.
That's good work. So what we read right here is how we were carried away. Remember now, this king, I forgot the king's name before, but he paid the king of Assyria to not come and to capture us. And what ended up happening? The king of Assyria came back and took us into captivity. So you understand? It took us out of our land. You understand? And this is the start of what we have now, the Native Americans and the so-called Hispanics eventually going on and to leave to go serve the Lord. Right now, we in the land of our captivity, and they're serving other gods. Well, at the time passes, we get tired of this life we're living. And that's what's going on in America. We got tired of this life, and now we're saying, let's come back and serve our God. And that's what's going to happen with the children of Israel. And they're going to say, we have to go into a land of our own in order to serve God. And that's how they got to the land we know today as North America. The Native Americans were the first ones here, but that's not their homeland. That's not our homeland. They came here to try to serve God and follow the statutes. And you'll read about that in the Apocrypha. You had a question, sis?
I was just wondering when they said they, in verse 9, about they did these things secretly.
Mm-hmm.
Why secretly? Like, I don't. It seemed like they were already captured. And, I mean, why would it be a secret? Like, are they thinking they're hiding it from the Lord?
Thinking right. It's the same way how Adam and Eve, and you go to that breakdown, how they thought that they can take on the customs of somebody else, and the Lord won't notice they did it. You understand? Take on a covering that's not of the Lord and think the Lord is not going to notice. You understand? You're not taking on this covering. That's what it means. Even in the spirit of how we sin today, most people that sin, they sin in secret. You understand? Like most of the time when you're doing something wrong, you try to keep it on the low. You understand? That's just the spirit of Israel. Not like the oppressor. The oppressor can be a gay man, and he's a gay man. A black man is a gay man. He's in the closet, down low. That's where that term comes from, the black community. Oh, he in the closet. Because we sin in secret, and that's always been our people. You understand? And it's not a good thing, but it's a good thing because now you still have an understanding. This is wrong. You understand? And you should be ashamed of it, and hopefully you be ashamed of it to stop it. But this is what's happening. We're gonna pick up next week. This history right here is so crucial because this leads into the whole thing of how Blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans are one people. You understand? A lot of people don't understand this history. Captain Katazar broke this down excellently in his 12 Tribes lecture. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. And stand with that up here only. Imagine, which means a stand. If you could record. Let's report the drink. Make sure you switch them up the show.
SHALAM.
You can't make all of them.
With that, I say Imagine, which means to stand. YAHANNA, which means turn and face the east. We're going to say the Lord's Prayer first in Hebrew. Repeat after me. Abinau, Shabbat Shemayim, Badash, I.S.U.P.K,
And in the English, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. In earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our debts. As we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it.
We're going to say, cut the power, Yahweh, by
And in the English, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh, please give us the power. The power to heal. All manner of sickness. And all manner of disease. The power to cleanse the leper. The power to raise the dead. The power against unclean spirits. To cast them out. In the name of Yahweh. Thank you. So be it.
We're going to say, bless Israel, Yahweh, by Hashem,
in the English, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh, bless us, and Israel, and the school, bless, heal, shield, protect our loved ones, in the name of Yahweh. Thank you. So be it.
We're going to say Psalms 121. Asha, Ayanya, Ahahari, Ma'ayan, Yaba'a, Izari, Yahweh, I.S.U.P.K,
I.S.U.P.K,
Shemaiah, Ayathan, Namawat, Regalka, Ayanawa, Shamarka, Hana, Yanawam, Wala'ah, Yashan, Shawamar, Yasha'al, Yahweh, Shamarka, Yahweh, Tazalka, Aliyah, Yemika, Yawamam, Hashemash, La'ah, Yakaka, Wayiraq, Delilah, Yahweh, Yashamarka, Makarah, Yashimar, Athnapashka, Yahweh, Yashimar, Taza'afka, Wabawa'afka, Ma'aitha, Wa'awalam, Wa'aman.
And in the English, I will lift up mine eyes into the hills. From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from Yahweh. Which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in. From this time forth, even forevermore. So be it.
We'll say Psalms 83, Alahayim, Al-Damayalaka, Al-Thakarash, Al-Thashakwat, Al-Yahanna, Al-YAHANNA, Yahamma, Wamashanayaka, Nasha'awa, Ra'ash, Al-Amaka, Ya'arayamwa, Sawad, Wayataya'itazawa, Al-Tatapawanika, Amarawa, Makawa, Wanakakida, Magaya, Wala'ah, Yazakah, Shamyasha'awa, Iwad, Kayya, Nawa'itazawa, La, Yakadwa, Aliyaka, Barya, Yakarathwa, Ahaya, Adawam, Wayashma'ayim, Mawa'aba, Wahagarian, Gabal, Wa'amalak, Halashah, Amyashabi, Tazawar, Gamashawar, Nalawak, Imam, Hayawak, Zarawak, Labanya, Salat, Aishalaham, Kamajid, Kasai Sara'ah, Kayabi, Banakal, Koyashuan, Nashamadwa, Ba'ayan Da'awa, Hayawak, Daman, La'adamak, Shaythamba, Nadiyamawa, Ka'ara, Wakaza'aba, Wakazabak, Wakazazamana, Kalnasaya Kumwa, Ashar, Amaru, Nayarashab, Lanawab, Na'awab, Alahaya, Shaythamba, Gagala, Kwash, Apunyaraka, Ka'ash, Saba'ari, Wakala, Thalahat, Haryam, Khan, Thorodatma, Basa'irika, Wabaso-Apathka, Sabahalam, Mala'ah, Panyaham, Kualawan, Wayabakwashua, Shemka, Yahweh, Yabashua, Wayaba'awa, Aja'ai, Wayakaparwa, Wayabadwa, Wayadaiwa, Kaya, Atha, Shemka, Yahweh, Labadka, Ayawat, Al-Ka'arataza, the water among.
And in the English, keep not thou silence on your house. Hold not that peace. And be not still. O Yahweh. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult. And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. And consulted against thy headquarters. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation. That the name of Israel may be no more remembered. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom and the Israelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, the Baal and Ammon,
and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. Salah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabez, at the brook of Kishon, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb, and like Zeeb. Yea, all their princes, as Sabbath, and as Zalmunna, who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of Yahweh in possession. Oh my power, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth the wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name. O Yahweh, let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, art the Most High over all the earth. So be it.
We're going to say blessings. Barakatah Yahweh. What Yahweh Shah. What Mayak Ya'alam. What Alahayah. Matazah B'yah. Alawak Yahanna. Alawak Yahanna. Ha-Saranya. Ha-Kwatazayanya. Ha-Kwayayanya. Wahakwathiya. Yahweh. Ba'Hashem. Yahweh Shah. What Aman.
In the English, bless you Yahweh. And Yahweh Shah. And Michael. And the angels. Commanding General Yahanna. The general. The captain. The officers. The troopers. And the sisters. Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shah. Thank you. So be it. Curses. Blessed are you, Yahweh. King of heaven and earth. And all things living. Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai. Listen to us now. Right now. Send evils and curses. And punishment and destruction. To the heathen. And speak against thy prophet. The teachers. The princes. The priests. The Israelite brother. And the school. Send evils and curses. And punishment and destruction. To the heathen, and shake loose the treasure of the rich of Israel, that refuse to give to the school, force their rich to enter to thy sanctuary. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the Edomites and the nation, and their drug dealers, the court system, the prison system, Planned Parenthood, all the governments of our enemies, Amalek synagogues and armies, the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, Islam, Christianity, Egyptology, militia, Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nation, skinheads, posse comitatus, the gay movement, the lesbian movement, spies, workers of witchcraft, National Space Program, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Wall Street, open up the internet, and the airways, the cable access channel, and the radio channel. Convict the spirit of any of thy people that seek to stop us and bring swift destruction to all the heathen that stand in the way or try to stop us from broadcasting your word throughout the planet Earth. Let loose all the plagues. Cause them to go to and fro through the earth and consume them. Let the plague shake the house of the thief and the murder. Let Yahweh, Michael and Gabriel come down with the flying saucers and punish all the heathen that come up against us as we speak thy word. Cause it to be known by all that it is the angels that have done it. Cause it to be spread through the media throughout the whole world. Cause them to shake at thy coming. In the name of Yahweh. Thank you always. So be it.
With that, Sar, which means to turn. Sisters, you can have a seat. Men of Israel, gird thy loins to prepare to salute the Torah.
Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakiyah.
Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakiyah.
Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah Barak Yah.
Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah Barak
Yeah.
Yah.
Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah Barak Yah.
Men of Israel, we're going to give one courtesy salute to the teacher. Men of Israel, I.S.U.P.K, I.M.A.J.M, Barak,
Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah Barak Thumb.
Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah Barak Thumb.
Yashmata, Sar. Sisters, please stand. We're going to give one courtesy salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, I.S.U.P.K, I.M.A.J.M, Barak,
Yahweh Shema Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah.
Yashmata. Class dismissed.